I have gotten opportunities that never existed on job portals or websites or LinkedIn. Not boasting about it, but because I would never fit myself into job descriptions, gig descriptions. So I had to find ways to make things work for me. So the story started from when I was trying to apply for jobs long back. I started following a lot of people who would give me advice on how to write better resumes, how to write good cover letters. A very common thing that people tell you to do is to tweak your resume and cover letter to the job that you're applying to. And it's a great advice, works also. And also write very templatized version of messages to people on LinkedIn, asking for referrals, all of that. I did that, converted few opportunities as well, but later down the line, I realized that I don't think so. I liked those opportunities, and of course, like is a very small word. I actually was not the right fit for the jobs as well. I burnt myself out, but later realized it's not sustainable. That's what led me to think about how can I do this differently. Definitely, this is not working for me. It works for a lot of people, but it didn't work for me. So I had to like find a way to make it work for me. So I took a break. I was anyway thinking things are not working out. I am frustrated. I'm lost. Might as well take a break from applying from doing all of this. Just like take a step back. And during that step back, I was getting bored. So I thought maybe add a playful nature to this work that I was doing of finding opportunities. Now when I think about it, it's quite weird, but I thought, okay, what is the worst that can happen? Anyway, I'm not getting anything. Like, what worse can happen? So maybe just, I'm bored, maybe find people who are building wacky stuff. I love wacky stuff. So I also like when I'm bored, I look for people who are doing weird stuff in the world, out of the box things, generally like people who are not fitting into the boxes. I really love those kind of people. So I thought, might as well find these people and see what they're doing without any outcome in mind. Like, to be honest, I'll be very, very honest. I had no outcome in mind. I was not looking for opportunities because I was tired of doing that search. So I thought, let's play now. I used to sit on Reddit, like read threads. Like I would sit on platforms and just read what other people are doing, what are they writing about, all of those pieces. And through that, I found like people building businesses into weird areas, people who were thriving doing different things that generally would not even occur to you. At least it didn't occur to me at that point. So I thought might as well, like there's no harm, might as well find these people and see what is their journey, what led them to think about doing this. So I would just like find their profiles on LinkedIn and message them, not with the ask for any opportunity job or like referrals, because these were fairly like smaller companies, so they would not have like jobs listed anyway. And because I was so curious and very natural in my ask, they would also reply. Like they would also be okay sharing their journey, because also these are the people who would not get a lot of messages with respect to their journeys. Here and there, they would get messages for internship, for some opportunity. So this was also a fairly new and a refreshing message for them. They would get on coffee chats with me or like calls with me. That's how I started getting on calls with people who are building different things, building very interesting things in the world. And that's how I realized that, wow, like people in the world have very, very, very different ways of thinking about things, about careers. That opened very different kind of doors for me. And I remember getting on a call with a person from a company where she was working on a specific job role. And I was very curious about what they do. I had no direct skills in that job or that company. And when she spoke to me, she also realized that I had a lot of transferable skills that can be fit for this role that she was doing. So she recommended me and I got through and I got the job and I really liked that job. I loved that job. And this wasn't listed anywhere. The job wasn't listed. I didn't Like I applied because she told me to apply, because she thought I can bring a lot to the table which does not exist in other candidates and I stand a fair chance. She was right, like I got that. So I realized that wow, whenever I applied or I reached out to people without that desperate need for money, for job, and whenever I was coming from curious way asking about what they do, and if I was genuinely interested, I would ask more questions and see if there's some way I either like I can have that idea and make it work for myself, or gain some skills, or ask for resources for the skills that they are working on, so that I can upskill myself. I think always went from that perspective, but in the process I realized that wow, this has opened doors which I never could have if I would have gone with a very linear way of applying to jobs, of doing all of this, and even asking for referrals. Because after I went to that job, I also got a lot of messages on LinkedIn where people would just message and then they ask for a referral. And now I understand why it never worked, because why? Like, of course, there are people who have gotten jobs through that, but I feel like if you have some kind of connect with either the company, the people, the skills, the kind of work that they are doing, it's generally very easy to get in and also do good work. And also like write messages very naturally to people instead of following a framework or a template from somebody else. So that got clarified for me, and I remember getting on a call with somebody who was running a business and was doing very different work than like I never thought or heard about that kind of work. I would not go into details, but I went on a call. I just asked curious questions. Just because I asked certain questions, they immediately asked me to give a feedback on their work. And I was very happy to do that for free also. I did that for free because it was a very like informal sort of a chat. So I didn't mind that. But when I was going through their piece of work and I was doing the feedback round, I realized there were so many missing pieces which were outside of the processes that I was supposed to give feedback on. So I went ahead and I added a lot more details, the before, the after, the whole thought process of how I looked at it on a piece of paper, and I shipped it. And when they read it, they realized that, okay, we just wanted a feedback on this aspect, but she has actually thought of the entire process, which made them realize that they were missing a lot of pieces in between. And they reached out to me asking me whether I can help them fix those pieces in. And it turned out that I didn't have the skills to do it, but I had the skills to figure out how to do it and execute it as well. And I did it. And it turned out to be a very long commitment, which was not listed. If I would have reached out to them saying that, hey, this is what I work in, this is what I'm looking for, they would not have, even thought about this sort of work. So this work, this opportunity got created because of the way I approached it, and also the way, the kind of person I was dealing with, they were very different. So I think that's the like idea. When there are certain doors which are not opening, what are the kind of ways you can approach it with, which might not be a direct link, but maybe a very like different way of working that you can approach. And so this is how I work. In general, I'm a very critical person, and this is something that was listed as my weakness everywhere I went, and I also started believing that's my weakness. But this very skill came so handy at finding new opportunities and converting them, because I'm very critical. I find problems in things that nobody else can, and then I take it a notch further. I also try to find a solution to them, and then I take it even one notch further. Shamelessly, I suggest the solution to people also. This very skill, which was always pointed out as a weakness, became my biggest strength. And please write it in the comments with respect to how do you find new opportunities, and I'll be happy if I can learn something from you as well. So go ahead and put those in comments.